The one with all the candy is the 9th episode of the 7th season of Friends. This is directed by David Schwimmer, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And there are 3 parts to the narrative, so I'll talk about each of them in turn. We have a part focusing on Ross and Phoebe, part on Monica, and part on Rachel and Tag. And I'll just go through them in that order. It starts off the episode with everybody helping Ben learn to ride his bike. I feel like it's been so long since we saw Ben. It might not have been, but it does seem like a while. And Phoebe said that she never learned to ride a bike. Somebody across the street did give her the box. Their bike came in, and honestly, Phoebe seemed quite happy with that. And Ross listened to this story, and he did what I have to say is an absolutely wonderful thing. He surprised Phoebe with the bike. And the bike very closely matched the description of the bike the person in the neighbourhood had. And Phoebe was so thankful, and she said it was the best gift she'd ever received. And she spent a lot of time with it, and everybody saw that she was walking with the bike. And this is the bit where I think Ross might not be as smart as he thinks he is. Because he asks Phoebe, quite surprised, "You do know how to ride a bike, don't you?" Phoebe had already said that she never had a bike of her own. The girl across the street never let her ride her bike. And even if, on the very odd chance that somebody Phoebe knew later in life had a bike, it's not like she would have spent very much time learning to ride the bike. So I think Ross shouldn't have been as surprised as he was that Phoebe couldn't ride this bike. But nevertheless, he helps her learn to ride, and it's really sweet and really lovely. And we end this part of the episode with Phoebe riding the bike, and she's using stabilizers. And it just goes to show you're never too old to learn to do something. And I love the fact that Phoebe wasn't bothered she had stabilizers. She wasn't feeling embarrassed. She was just so happy that finally she was riding a bike. And I love that. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. We then come to Monica. Monica is making holiday candy for the neighbours. And I will be honest, if a neighbour I didn't know put candy out in a basket, I would not touch it. I would not trust it. But the neighbours really love it. And somebody arrives at the door at 4 o'clock in the morning, looking for more candy, describing them as little drops of heaven. Chandler's not impressed, but Monica's really loving this. And Chandler realises that it's not that they love the candy that Monica likes. It's that they like her because she provides the candy. And I loved Monica's response when she said to that, "You really want to talk about getting people to like you, funny man?" Which I loved, and it just goes to show that most people will do something with the hope of people liking them. For Monica, it's providing candy. Chandler tries to make people laugh. Granted, I feel like Chandler uses comedy mostly out of nervousness or to deflect, but also there'll be an element in there of using comedy to try and get people to like him, because that is, to Chandler, his main asset. And it was a nice moment. And then there's this huge crowd outside the door. There's a woman smoking, which is not acceptable, and Joey's there as well, and he's part of the mob, and it's just absolute chaos. And I really liked it. Also, it made me want candy. So I thought it was a really nice part of the episode. Not surprising that Monica needed people to like her and that this was the way for that to happen, but I guess still quite thought-provoking at the same time. And then we come to Rachel and Tag. And we establish that they're still in a relationship. Rachel has decided it's not going to be a problem, but also they probably shouldn't let people at work know that they're seeing each other. And she happened to mention his upcoming evaluation, his work performance evaluation, and she left it on his desk, marked as confidential, and Tag sent it to HR, which seems like a strange move. If somebody's leaving your evaluation on the desk, there's a reason why they haven't sent it to HR, but clearly Tag wasn't aware of that. And it turns out that this was just a joke evaluation. And had I been Rachel in that moment, first of all, I wouldn't have made the joke evaluation because that's a risk. But second of all, I would have probably curled up in a ball and started rocking back and forth, because that would have been humiliating. And she has an inappropriate sketch on it. She talks about how Tag's a good kisser and he has a teeny tiny tushy that she likes. And they come up with a plan to get the evaluation. But unfortunately, it's too late, because Mr. Zelner comes into the office and he's already read the evaluation. And Tag, to his credit, I don't know if he should have done this. I don't know if it was the right thing to do, but certainly it was a very lovely thing to do. He took the heat. He said he wrote it as a joke. And to quote, "I have a weird sense of humour and I'm kind of strangely proud of my butt," which I rather liked. Tag realised, of course, that if he got fired, it wouldn't make a huge difference. I imagine he's not on a huge salary. He hasn't climbed up the corporate ladder very far. This is an entry-level position. So chances are he'd get an entry-level position elsewhere if the person interviewing him was also physically attracted to him, because that's how he got this job, which is slightly disturbing now that I've said that out loud. And obviously, if Rachel lost her job, that would be a huge fall from the top. It would be very, very difficult for her to climb back up the ladder, to get a foot in the door again. So it was a very sweet thing for Tag to do. And what I really liked about this is they hug at the end of this, or the end of this part of the episode. And it was a real hug of friendship and respect for one another. And it kind of highlighted in that moment that maybe there's more to this relationship than just sex. Maybe there is something more emotional here than just physical attraction. And I think it was a really interesting moment. The episode as a whole, really great. Personal highlights would be the moment, absolutely, when Ross presented the bike to Phoebe. It was so, so sweet. Phoebe learning to ride, absolutely loved it. Monica and the candy in general, I just liked how that developed. And yeah, Tag and Rachel together in that final scene, I rather liked. So definitely a really good episode. There's nothing about this that didn't work well. I think the one with all the candy is an absolute delight. The next episode is brilliant as well. I'm really looking forward to watching the next episode. But for now, I can sum up by saying the one with all the candy is pretty brilliant. There's nothing about it that I don't like. Definitely a really solid episode of Friends.